We return to our coverage of the death of Nelson Mandela. Mandela had a particularly close relationship with Canada. He visited this country just a few months after his release from prison and talked about how much he cherished Canada's commitment to freedom and democracy around the world. Mike Armstrong reports.
So I ask that we all stand, and we are going to do a moment of silence together.
Nelson Mandela was remembered like this all over Canada, but there is something special about this spot. This is Nelson Mandela Park Public School. Mandela spoke in the same gym when the school was named in his honor. 12 years later, some of the students in the room that day returned.
It's very sad that he passed, but what he stood for, his legacy, the things he's done and the people he has impacted will live on.
You are going to be prime ministers.
What Mandela passed to the crowd that day was the same thing he passed on to Canadians, whether he was here in the country or back home in South Africa: inspiration.
If you're with Mandela, you have his total attention.
As a journalist in the 50s, Ray Hurd covered Mandela in South Africa. Later in Canada, he helped make Mandela an honorary citizen. One of the things that sticks with him today is how Mandela treated children, usually greeting them with one question.
What is your name? And what do you want to do in life? And the child would tell him what they want to do, and he would look at them, and he's very slow talking and patient. I have no doubt you will realize your dream.
They were greeted by the Prime Minister.
Mandela made 3 trips to Canada, the first just 5 months after his release from prison. Mandela thanked Prime Minister Brian Mulroney for his work fighting apartheid. Today in a statement, Mulroney made it clear he too felt the inspiration. Quote, "It is hard to imagine how much poorer the world would be were we not to have been blessed by the power of the life of Mandela, the teacher of his people, a model for leadership everywhere."
Uncle Nelson is what I've always called him, so.
Avanti Singh grew up in South Africa. Her father was in prison with Mandela. She moved to Canada, but will never forget a trip back after Mandela was released when he dropped by her parents' home.
Uncle Nelson came in through the back door, huge hugs, and it was like you just hadn't seen your uncle in many years, you know. And yet it felt the same.
Now, even people who never met Mandela are feeling emotion today. There are books of condolences in cities across the country. Geographically, Canada's about as far from South Africa as you can get. At times over the years, it hasn't felt like that. It certainly doesn't today. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Montreal.